Okay, so no hate to this person. I've seen a lot of comments along these lines. This just happens to be the one I'm replying to because I want to talk about finnick's games. To clarify though, we aren't given any clear-cut rules about when careers volunteer, and most victors who we know the age of when they won actually didn't win their games at 18. When we meet Finnick in Catching Fire, Katniss talks about him winning his games when he was 14 and being very popular with sponsors, in part because he was good at using weapons, but also in part because he was very good looking, which is horrifying. Now, Katniss is unreliable, she often does not have all of the information, and the Capitol definitely can change the narrative around. But I still don't think there's any reason to doubt the overarching sentiment of that, even if the details might have been a little bit different. So did he win his games just because he was good looking? No, absolutely not. We are told that Finnick was already a good fighter with the spears and knives he had found in the cornucopia. Since it took about a week for the other tributes to identify him as their biggest threat, and it only took a few days of nets and the trident to be the last one standing, he clearly didn't get the trident immediately. And we can't have it both ways, right? If Finnick won because he was able to use this very expensive sponsor gift very effectively, well, that means he knew how to use a weapon very effectively. And we also know that somebody would not have sent him that sponsor gift in the first place. He would not have gotten to the point where he was alive to get that sponsor gift in the first place if he wasn't effective with other weapons too. Yes, Finnick was 14, but being 14 is not an obstacle it's impossible to overcome in this situation. Finnick specifically chose weapons that mitigate a lot of the disadvantage he may have faced if he was smaller than other tributes, than other careers. With a spear or a trident, you're not going body to body with somebody in the same way you do if you're both using swords. It's kind of like what Katniss was saying to Peeta in the first book. They're talking about their respective strengths, and she's like, yeah, well, you wrestle. And he's like, what good is that going to do me? And she's like, well, if you can't get distance, it's going to do you a lot of good. It's going to do you good that I don't have. While the movie says that he's the youngest victor ever, the books don't say that. They don't say that what he did was unprecedented. He's not said to be the youngest victor ever, just one of the youngest at the time of the 75th games. Now, whether you read that as one of the youngest going into the arena or one of the youngest ever, it's still one of. I mean, look, kids survive the games using whatever means they have at their disposal. A lot of kids from career districts specifically who tend to they're typically volunteers who are choosing to go in, they're self-selecting into going into the arena. A lot of them are probably both good with weapons and conventionally attractive. Like, we see that with other career victors as well. We see that with Gloss and Cashmere. And in the 74th games, Glimmer doesn't win, but we see this from her as well. She's playing up her appearance when they do the interviews, but she is also clearly very good with a bow and tries to smuggle poison into the arena. There is no shame in any of that. They are trying to survive. So the dismissive way I've seen people sometimes jump to, well, the 14-year-old only won because he was good looking, just sits a little weird with me. Look, for every Finnick, there are probably 5 or 6 Glimmers. The game makers are not going to hand anyone the games because of their appearance. None of these kids are special to them. From the Capitol's perspective, there will always be other pretty brainwashed teenagers from career districts who are able to use weapons. Capitol viewers would just move on to a new favorite. The Capitol would find a use for the person who came out on top. Like, the Capitol is not picky. Finnick is special to us. Finnick is special to the people from his district, the people who care about him. Finnick is ultimately not special to the Capitol, and certainly not before he wins.